Hey, what's up, folks? This is Jesse with Keeping It Real Finance, channel that always has your back and tells it like it is. Well, in today's video, we are going to do a 2022 year-end recap for all things Jasmy. All the biggest news that happened over the course of this year, the things I felt were most relevant. I put them in a little spreadsheet, so hopefully you can just follow along at home. It's really easy to pick them up. And then from there, in the final thoughts, I want to talk about a bit of a nod towards the future of where's it all going, right? You know, we've been in a bit of a crypto deep freeze. Everybody is just sort of over this down spell, this kind of never-ending slog through the crypto winter. But hopefully there is some light at the tunnel coming here next year. So I am keeping an eye out for that. But I did want to talk about, in the final thoughts, just kind of, where's it going? What is the future here? What are we even investing in? What is this thing, right? Because I think, when we really get bearish, like right now, this is kind of where everybody loses that a little bit. And I want to kind of bring it on home for why are we all doing this in the first place, right? So if you enjoyed today's video, as always, make sure to hit the like button. If this is your first time to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And lastly, if you click the bell, you'll be made aware whenever I post time-sensitive content just like this. And now, let's get it going. Okay, check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2. And we are going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and blast off. What is up, everybody? Back with you with your Jasmy weekly update to recap the year of 2022. So I was out of town earlier this week, but I've been, following everything on CT. I can see the markets just kind of floundering along. Not a whole lot going on. It's getting a little bearish out there. So I figured what a good time it would be to do a yearly recap for all the progress that I think we made over this past year here. And so the first thing here, in terms of partnership, this one was with Transcosmos. They have been a partner from very early on. This is one of the reasons I'm really bullish with Jasmy in particular, is how exactly does a billion-dollar company partner with a startup, right? And that's basically what they did to create Secure PC. And Secure PC, for those who don't know, it's basically a monitoring system for teleworkers. So in the post-COVID environment, people who would either be like contracted temps or as well as employees that would be in a contact center or a call center are now working out of their house. So how does somebody in management sort of supervise that? How do you monitor the production, all these various things? And I would say from somebody who comes from that background in terms of the corporate world, this is definitely technology which is absolutely essential for anybody who's trying to manage teleworkers. You need to be able to see their desktop, and you need to be able to listen in on a phone call. That's kind of what it comes down to, right? And so Secure PC is one of Jasmy's products that helps them do that. Just over the last couple of weeks, they released Secure PC version 2.0 that had some updates in the user interface, as well as with the Ghost Drive. That's part of the technology here that's set up to monitor said, teleworkers. Okay, so that happened over the last couple of weeks. Thought that was a pretty big deal and a big accomplishment on the year that we are now on version 2.0. All right. Number 2, so Vio and Avita laptops. So Vio is kind of the high end. Avita is a little more on the lower kind of budget friendly end. And what I like about both of these partnerships, they're not one partnership together, but they're separate, is that we kind of cover all spectrums of the buyer who's looking for that secure laptop, right? And that's where Jasmy comes in with that partnership. And Jasmy has wanted to bridge this out to governments, to banking institutions, finances. That's where this thing really kind of takes off. So I think that's really important. Next, we have the Nippon Travel Agency. So this was the oldest travel agency in Japan. Pretty sure they're one of the largest, if not the largest that's there. They released their Trip A or Trippa product out there. And, the thing with this we've been talking about all along is that what is at the core of Jasmy's products? Well, it's It's the platinum data. Platinum data. That's what all of the big executives with all of the various partnerships and all the big businesses are looking at as platinum data. And so with something like Nippon Travel Agency, well, what kind of platinum data are we looking for? And what we're looking for is, for example, I just went on a trip over the last 3-4 days, drove 6, 7, 8 hours from the house, went up to the mountains, did the following, events while we were there, yada, 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 ate at the following restaurants, and then later we came home. Well, if I provided all that information to somebody like the Nippon Travel Agency, they could take that platinum data. Jasmy could incentivize me, basically pay me with my DD points, aka DD coin, for that data. So you're being compensated for it. And then they can take it and they can run the edge AI against it, and they can come up with new inferences to say that, okay, Jesse, well, it looks here like you like to drive, anywhere up to 8 hours from your house. Here's some other trips that you may want to do based on what you did before. Here's some places you may want to eat at, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's pretty cool. This is just at the beginning. This is the very beginning. And this is kind of that smart marketing idea, right? That's exactly what they're doing there. On top of that, now you couldn't talk about Jasmy in 2022 without talking about Saganto Su. This is the football, aka soccer club in Japan, and their fun token or fan token app. So what the app does is this kind of brings a new revenue stream to the company. It engages the super fans as well as the fans who may not be that much engaged. It could engage them. And what you're basically doing is you download an app on your phone. It's in the iOS or Android store. You can download it right now. With that, I think everything in it's Japanese, I want to say. But within the app, it basically asks you various questions. It's kind of like quiz questions, things like that. It's a way for you to get closer to the team. And as you build up those DD points, you level up your NFT account. As you level up, you get more and more access, exclusive access to the team. So this is a really big deal. And I view Saganto Su as kind of like the testing ground for this technology, for the idea, for the fan token. Okay. So huge deal that came out just towards the tail end of this year. That's been kind of in the works for a long time. Now, next, we had the NCCC. This was the Carbon Credits Consortium is what it is. The Natural Carbon Credit Consortium. What's involved there is numerous businesses. I want to say it was 30 plus businesses, 9 local governments, all working on the Jasmy chain to collect that data and provide inferences and manage carbon credits. So basically it is a green initiative that they just announced over the past month or so. Thought that was a really big deal, right? Centrality. So centrality is worth mentioning because a lot of people don't really understand blockchain technology or the Jasmy chain. A lot of people don't really get that. The Jasmy chain is possible through a partnership with Centrality in particular. And they have been working on that Jasmy chain with them, I want to say since 2018. So 4 years they've been putting that together, but that's kind of what makes this whole thing possible. Centrality AI is the group behind it, and they have partnered with Jasmy. And so there's a lot of pretty cool photos that have come out. I've done a lot of videos on Centrality in the past, but it's worth mentioning because it's really kind of the cornerstone of this technology, right? Sony. So we finally had a confirmation on Sony. So people have been wondering about Sony forever and ever and ever because basically a lot of the Jasmy management is all former Sony management and very high up management, all the way to the CEO, right? And so we finally had Hara confirmed through AMA that they work with Sony for PC design and financial. Also, I think we had a statement that came out from Sony Biz Networks, specifically referencing their partnership with Jasmy. So that also happened this past year. So big on all the way around, finally had some confirmations there, right? Regarding WITS, the entry-exit system. So this is the system that will be used at the Hokkaido ballpark. This is for the, I think this is the Nippon Ham Fighters, or the team that was playing there. But in particular, the Hokkaido ballpark has been getting built this entire year. And you can look it up on Twitter. There's all kinds of updates for it, as well as, if you look in Google. But massive, massive ballpark that's getting built, should be going live early next year. And with that, Jasmy is partnered with the entry-exit system. Some of the other big partners into that ballpark are like Panasonic, right? So some huge Japanese companies. So also a very big deal they've been working on for quite a while. The Happiness Project Phase 3. So I'll kind of show you some screenshots of that in a second. It's kind of in the screen that I have behind the spreadsheet here. But that's been in the works. And why I think that's important is that with each phase of the Happiness Project, they've been adding users to it. This is all kind of like beta testing, building up to something going live, right? So that's a really big deal. Outside of that, just some other, partnerships worth mentioning. The Bears Camellia, this was a track team, a local track team that they were sponsoring. They got their Jasmy logo on the jersey, Tokyo Tokens on there, as well as some others. Bitpoint was big earlier in the year, where they were having Big Boss, who's one of the big-time baseball players from Japan, who is I want to say he's like a manager now. They were paying him in Jasmy coin on Bitpoint. And Bitpoint is relevant because Remix Point owns Bitpoint. Remix Point is partnered with SBI Holdings. SBI is another massive billion-dollar company, right? Lastly, on this front, Biomedica. This was another one that came out. It was cell cultures, something along those lines, in terms of a totally different use case, right? A medical oriented use case. So this is different from some of the others. Now, we've also talked in the past, as well as on our Jasmy Spaces calls, which if you haven't tuned into those, definitely check them out. We'll be kicking them off again in the new year. If you can't call in, you can always listen to the recording later. Or if you can't call in, we usually do them on Sundays. But on those calls, we've talked about the medical angle for Jasmy as well. That what if you could provide all of your medical data into your personal data locker? You could run Edge AI against it and then get new inferences on what you need for your medical health, right? What medicines should you be taking? What supplements might you need right now? Things like that. Where are you trending? I mean, you can kind of get all that stuff in a way in, like a yearly checkup. But I think where it takes it a step further is the Edge AI part. I mean, me personally, I know whenever I go to the doctor, it's kind of like, I feel like I can never find a good doctor. It's like almost impossible. And then when you do finally find one, they either move or they retire, right? So anyway, it would be nice to have a automated system that I could just plug in my data and it could tell me what I need, right? So I think that's probably around the corner. So Biomedica is just sort of the first step into that. Now, moving on from there in terms of government updates. So over this past year in the government of Japan, they've really been focused on the overall business climate, the business environment, bringing Japan back, make Japan great again, right? Maja, make a, how did it go? How was it in the US? MAGA, Maja, whatever. Anyway, they're trying to bring Japan back to prominence of what it was like, let's say 20, 30 years ago, right? Kind of like the 80s, maybe early 90s. And it's sort of floundered for a while since then. They're trying to make it great again. And in doing so, they really got to make a pro-business climate in the country. And they really haven't had that for quite a long time. Their laws are very stifling for businesses. And so, there's a lot of blockchain type businesses that have left because it's significantly easier to start it somewhere else, like Singapore, for example. And so the first step of this, they did put out a stablecoin bill that happened earlier in the year. I want to say they're like the first country around the world to do that, or at least a first major one. So that was a really big deal. We had the proposal go through finally over the last month or so to remove some of the taxes on unrealized gains and taxing cryptocurrency, aka blockchain companies that are creating a token. Previously, they wanted to tax you on all that as if there were value there that you're holding, etc. Even when it isn't realized. That's really the issue. Is you can't stifle business on unrealized gains, and that's what they've been doing throughout. And that's one of the reasons why I've been become a believer in Jasmy in particular, because why on earth would you start this company there in 2016? It's now almost 7 years later. That's a heck of a commitment if you didn't know what was going to happen next. Which leads me to the next part here. 2025 Data Exchange Marketplace. These are the goals of the government of Japan. A data exchange and marketplace. This lines up almost perfectly with Jasmy and their 2026 KPIs. And then 2030 is Smart Cities, Data-Driven Society. So you can kind of see where it's all trending. And this is trending towards data as a resource. Data is like the new oil. That is where the government is headed. And if you watch their public statements and the various news articles come out and the speeches from the Prime Minister Kishida, all around the world, it's all leading towards this. All right. Now, next, confirmed. So is Jasmy a security? That comes up every now and again, especially when things get bearish. The answer is no, it's not a security. They did not have an ICO. Therefore, it is not a security. They also have the largest fintech law firm in Japan representing them, and they have represented them from the beginning. All right. Circulating supply confirmed. This took years, it felt like, to get this finally done, but CoinMarketCap is now correct. Circulating supply is at 93%, 46.299 billion in circulation. Of that, originally there were 20 plus 500 million token wallets that were captured in Etherscan. You could see them there, and they were steadily diluting over time. We are down to, I think, only one. There was only one left. And I remember I've done numerous videos. You can go back, watch the tape, where we were sort of counting these down. We were down to one. So just crazy. Now, on those lines, and this is something Hara has disclosed recently, was that they had a market maker contract from the very beginning. I'm assuming this has got to be MEXC, potentially, where coins were released ahead of schedule. And he has said that throughout, that they released significantly faster than their original schedule had entailed. So found that interesting. Holders, we're now up to 42,000 holders, so that's pretty awesome. That's been moving up all year long. I remember when it was around 30, it's been going up, up, up. So pretty cool. Ando's still involved. I think that's absolutely massive. Ando is the catalyst of this whole thing. He's still involved. He was in the latest photos with the Avita partnership as a facilitator. I think he's the one that was given the torch from whatever government board the idea of this came out from. And I think he's carried it through. And so Sato, he's the really the president, the CEO, but Ando is definitely the facilitator. Outside of that, we had multiple AMAs. Just even had a new one with BitGet. Had the one that we did with Hara. Had the one that the Jasmy International Discord did. Thought that was pretty awesome. 70-ish exchanges. So we've got somewhere in the ballpark of 70. I don't know if it's a little below, a little above. Quite a lot. That's very just crazy on the crypto front. 2026 KPIs. Hara has confirmed them. 107 million users. They want to get to $500 average revenue per user. This is how they get to those high dollar figures, along with locking up those coins. Hired guns. We had this come out a little bit earlier in the year. That it appears that Yoshida potentially was a hired gun brought on by Ando to get Jasmy rolling. And then Jasmy board. This is something new that I haven't even talked about this yet. Jasmy board, that if you look at their website now, it shows Hagawara as the director of the board. So, again, you think about startup companies. How many startups have a board? I don't know. Maybe this is just something they do in Japan, or maybe Jasmy really is different in the sense that they have a board, just like Sony had a board and Hagawara is the president. So again, these are the kind of moves that your average company doesn't make these. Your average company isn't talking about global expansion. Your average company doesn't have a board, when they're really kind of at a startup, kind of a smaller cap area, right? But Jasmy does. So pretty wild. Now, in terms of global expansion, over this past year, we've traced articles, AMAs, all kinds of stuff, and basically through Hong Kong. Early on, it was China, and later AMAs, India, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Taiwan, US, kind of all over the place. So predominantly Asia expansion, and this is how they could get to that 107 million users. Very possible just throughout Asia alone. They don't even need the US. So I think that also is a pretty big deal, right? Now, I wanted to kind of look at the website here. So we've got the, the phase 3. Let's spread the feeling of thank you by using the personal data locker. So they're trying to incentivize people to use the PDL for the Happiness Project. Thought that was pretty cool. And I wanted to highlight the website also because the website has come a long way. When I was first looking at this website, it really wasn't very good. It was just kind of clunky and not very well laid out. They've done a lot of work on this thing to advance it, right? So now we've got that. We've got the Sagan Tosu here. So this whole section on them now on sale. Fan tokens finally starting, right? So pretty awesome right there. Download the Sagan Tosu fan token app that can be used free of charge by anyone who has purchased a fan token or has not yet purchased it. So pretty awesome there. And then, of course, Secure PC is also pretty relevant in the conversation here. So overall, the website is looking more and more official, which I do like. I like that a lot. Now, I did want to move over here to CoinMarketCap. This is where I showed you, or where I told you earlier about the 93% in circulation. This is accurate now. For nearly almost this entire year, this was not accurate. I don't know if it's ever been accurate, actually, but it's accurate now. So we finally got that confirmed. Hara did confirm it, and they have gotten CoinMarketCap updated. Now, I also wanted to show you down here the holders that, it's gone up, basically to roughly 42,000 right now. So that was pretty awesome. In terms of Etherscan, just, a quick little jaunt over here, you can see Binance 8 sitting at 13.3 billion coins. And a lot of people don't really understand that, but what that means is that depending on which wallet this is for Binance, like here's another one, this Binance 14, that's got 869 million. Some of that could be for promotion. Some of that could simply be all of the various users on the Binance platform that are holding the coin. And so what I'm getting at here is when you see a stat that says, 41,972 holders, that's not exactly accurate because they're considering something like Binance 8 as one holder, which really this could be quite a lot of people, right? So overall, though, I wanted to show you right here, there's that 500 million token wallet, the one and only one that remains. So just crazy overall that we've come that far. So moving on forward, I did want to show this Jasmy Global sites. This is another one of their sites. They have a few sites. This one in particular, it shows the transactions total at 574,000. But what it doesn't show is when you're looking at present active users data value PDR, right? So that's the price data ratio. And so why this is relevant is that to date, everything that Jasmy has been doing is basically like in a beta test. It's all been kind of building up to say that we've got this and it works, right? Well, if you look at it here on the Jasmy Global site, it doesn't show any active users. Now, These numbers that are in here, I think we had looked at before, and they had basically been manually added. There is not an API that's auto-calculating these. That's not happening. And so for active users, this is kind of the area that I want to see this start rising. Active users, data value, PDR. This is kind of that next thing. Now that we finally got CoinMarketCap updated, we really need them to start updating these blockchain stats. Because that'll kind of show you what's happening. And, one thing that I'll just throw it out there that they haven't really captured, that I think they need to capture, is in terms of those locked up coins or the locked up percentage, right? That's really what we want to know, those locked up coins. And with that, let me just transition to my next thing here, the market supply. And this is back from 2021 here, but this was the total market supply, kind of the basic phases, the periods of growth, essentially, for the coin. So we had the period of popularization, period of growth and value, period of ecosystem expansion, and then period of market establishment. Now, this is the chart that it was supposed to be on, right? Now, I don't think this chart is entirely accurate to where we are today, because today, I mean, if you're looking at this chart and you look at how many years out there, 93%, we're basically like somewhere between the period of ecosystem expansion and the market establishment. But according to the team, we're somewhere a little further back, more so towards the growth and value, right? So we've got significantly more coins out ahead of this chart. And I think the issue there is simply this. I've talked about this before in my video on the float. If you really want to know where the big value in Jasmy could come from, watch my video on the float. But the gist of it is basically that for any coin to go up in value, there has to be some sort of mechanism to take out some of the supply, right? So I've talked about before, I talked about last week, Bitcoin, 21 million coins, there's far less than that. They're actually in circulation. If you go to CoinMarketCap, it says 21 million, but that's not accurate. It's way less than that, right? You could go to another coin that has staking, right? I've compared this to Cardano many times. When Cardano did its big run, 70% was staked, okay? You can look at something like BNB or little brother KCS. Any of those ones, they have a burning mechanism over time. Jasmy in particular, the way it's engineered is for coins to be locked up by businesses. This is critical to the coin going up in value. Those coins have to be locked up by businesses. And as far as I know, I don't think Jasmy actually captures that number or percentage anywhere. So that's definitely something that maybe as a community we could kind of push them for in the next AMA is we need them to give us at least just a percentage or a number of coins, whatever it is, out of the circulating supply that are locked up by businesses. Because the higher that goes, that's what will push it in that next bull run, all right? So that's extremely important. But the thing is with this chart right here, and again, this is from 2021, so it's outdated because they had the market maker. They had that deal in place to basically make the market, right? But the problem was that 2022, this entire year, everything has just gone down. So the market maker, in order to provide liquidity, has been releasing coins faster than originally intended, okay? And Hara has said that in numerous AMAs, right? So my point in all of this is that if you were looking at these charts right here, really, this area kind of, if you wanted to see this maybe more accurately, probably a lot of this should be green up to 93%. And I don't know how much or if any is locked up in businesses right now. I really don't know. And that's kind of the number that we have to figure out, this orange area in the bar chart. Where are we actually at? Because I don't think we're anywhere near this right here. Now, I could be totally wrong because Jasmy hasn't shared that number yet. But if they could share that number, I think that would go a long way in terms of moving the coin up in value, especially long-term, building long-term value, as well as rewarding everybody that's been holding, since the beginning, right? I showed you earlier, I've been holding this thing since 17 cents. Now, granted, I've been DCAing the whole time, so whatever, it's a bit of a wash. But nonetheless, I mean, that's a big drop in value that happened because of that market maker releasing the coins for the liquidity. And then that also throws off this chart. And so we need these charts to come back to be accurate again. And we just need to know where we're at in terms of that overall percentage for coins locked up by businesses. All right. Now, lastly, I did want to go over, I don't want to end this video without going over to TradingView, right? So first of all, this is not Jasmy's chart. This is Bitcoin's chart that I'm looking at right now, right? And you can see where we're at right now. We're kind of floating around. We got this, support level right about here. So the 16,000 that we're floating at, right? And you can see the last cycle here. We had a big peak. We kind of, went sideways for a while, dropped off a cliff, and then we had a little bit of a rebound. I still think we could have a bit of a rebound with this cycle. I think really, again, I follow these AMAs. I talk about that all the time, the blue line, the red line, the green line. The closer they get together, the better our odds are of going bullish, right? And right now, I mean, we've been kind of in the straight down dip of the roller coaster. I mean, really, if you look at this, and I was looking at this earlier today, 2022 has just been one big downer, pretty much for all markets, really. Every investment I have has lost a lot of money this year, all of them, with the exception of real estate, oddly enough, right? This is why you always have to diversify. My real estate's done great, oddly enough, but everything else has been terrible. It's all plummeted, right? Didn't matter what I bought, it's gone down. And you can see that in the Bitcoin chart, that it's just gone down the entire year. This whole year has just been one big red year. And it's not just cryptocurrency. It's not just Jasmy. It's not just Bitcoin. It's the entire world market. This world is connected. It's a spider web. It's connected. It's kind of like, if the planet was like a bathtub full of water and you dropped a, bowling ball in it, well, there's going to be waves that reverberate through that until it flattens out again. And that's kind of what's gone on this whole year. I mean, we just had one bearish thing after another that's really just kind of dragged everything down. And Jasmy is, no exception. It doesn't stand alone as much as any of us would like it to. It just doesn't. None of the cryptocurrencies do. They just can't stand alone from Bitcoin yet, because the whole market is still pretty tightly coupled with Bitcoin, right? So really, there's not really any getting around that yet. Now, this is funny. This is the Jasmy chart. Let me try to adjust this real quick. So we'll kind of stretch this out a little bit. And you can see here with the Jasmy chart, again, if you're looking at your AMAs, your EMAs, excuse me, not AMAs. If you're looking at your EMAs, you can see, the blue line's way up here, green and red are way down there in the bottom. So they really got to kind of get more tightly aligned before this thing can turn around. It's just not there yet in terms of flipping and going bullish, right? Now, one thing I have been thinking about is that when I did my comparison to Cardano, I want to say bottomed out around like a penny or so. Now, Jasmy has been bottoming out lower than that. So if it bottoms out lower, does that mean that it would follow the exact same sort of path of Cardano? If we had the 70%, locked up with businesses. And I don't know, now that it's dropped lower, could it be a fraction of it? Maybe it does a quarter of what Cardano did, right? So maybe instead of 320 or whatever Cardano went to, it goes up to 80 cents or 85 cents in the next run. It's kind of hard to say where it ultimately lands. Now, in the long run, the bigger picture, again, going back to the government of Japan, the national data strategy, smart cities, it's going to go far bigger. But it is definitely very bearish right now. And so, I had shared a chart in my video I did last week that Plan B posted on the relative strength of Bitcoin, and it's at its lowest ever, right? It's really low right now. But it always rebounds and pumps really hard after that. And, one of the things I noticed when I was looking at the Bitcoin chart earlier is you can't underestimate the power of FOMO. You really can't. And it's just so funny, the way market psychology works is that when the market's down like this, everybody's bearish, everyone's scared, no one wants to buy. The second it starts pumping, everybody's thinking, boy, I better get in on that before I miss it, right? And then things just sort of take off from there. And so, I think it's been an odd year, but overall, in terms of, where Jasmy's at, is it leveling out here soon? Probably. I think it probably is. When you looked at that Bitcoin chart and the various, support, I think it was probably leveling out a little bit. You can see here, where this thing was at earlier, none of us really thought it was going to drop down to where it currently is. So the prices it's at currently are just kind of crazy. I didn't really see that coming. This was on, I think that's the Bittrex chart. I've got Jasmy charted on a few of these. Here's another one. This one's from KuCoin. So this was that kind of recent dip that it's been following this downward trend, right? And we need it to level out here somewhere overall for things to turn around. Let me kind of go to the bigger chart here. So if you're looking at this currently in terms of the stock RSI, look, we're right about bottoming out again. So we're due for a good rebound. In terms of the waves down here, it looks like we're getting a bit of a trigger wave potentially forming right here that could have this thing moving up here soon. But overall, in terms of the larger picture, I've been saying all along, I don't really see a big rebound until, maybe summer of next year. I still think, the inflation's got to change, that kind of thing. But overall, hopefully we stop dipping at some point. That's probably what everyone wants to hear, right? Hopefully at some point we stop dipping. So anyway, that's it for the yearly recap here. Just wanted to cap the video with some final thoughts here and bring it on home. If you enjoy the content posted on this channel, don't forget to visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/KIR Finance. Your support means everything. And now, let's get back to the video. All right, so in today's final thoughts, I really just wanted to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit for the future of Jasmy, right? So where's it going? Why are we investing in all this? What does it all mean, right? I think you got to start at the point where you look at the value of data, okay? Now, I've talked about the value of data before. The easiest way to find the value of data is you look at somebody like a Facebook, and the value of their data is roughly $40 to $50 per user. Well, the crux with Jasmy all along is they wanted to get that up to $500 per user, the value of data, right? And how do they get there, et cetera, et cetera. And so you really just got to look at the overall value, right? Do you think the data has a value in the future? Yes or no? For me, it's a firm yes. The value of data is immense, right? There's so much we can do with it, so many inferences we can gain from it. You can sell it, you can monetize it, yada, yada, yada. There have been some articles that have come out recently that have talked about a data marketplace. So you think about providing your data and what is your data worth, right? Who can buy that data? What does the data marketplace look like? Then you look over at Japan with what they're doing with the national data strategy, and that's exactly it. Data marketplace, data exchange, 2025. Oddly enough, Jasmy's KPIs are 2026. Pretty funny, right? Moving on forward from there, they have their smart cities that is a data-driven society by 2030. If you look at, as I mentioned earlier, the statements that are being made right now by the government of Japan, they are all heading towards this, a data-driven society. Japan is trying to drive data as a leader around the world, right? And so when you look at Jasmy, you say, okay, so they're pretty much teed up for this pretty perfectly for where they are. So what does it come down to? Well, it comes down to execution of their ideas and their product. Is it actually a good product, yes or no, right? And then I think the other big thing here for all of us on the investing side is what it comes down to are those businesses that are locking up the tokens. Because as they lock up the tokens, then that also increases the value of the coin, which goes along with all of the KPIs for the value of data. And so when you're looking at this kind of big picture mentality, do you think there's going to be value in data, and is that value going to rise as time goes on? And it's a pretty resounding yes. Now, if you look at the market right now, you could say, oh no, there's no value in data whatsoever. I don't know if I'd go that far, right? You know, this current cycle that we're in is probably the worst Bitcoin cycle Bitcoin's ever had. It's pretty bad. This current calendar year of 2022 has been nothing but down. We've been red across the board in absolutely everything. Everything's red, right? We're still waiting for the bottom. Where's the bottom? Everybody wants to know where the bottom is, right? You got some people that are waiting on the sidelines now because they're waiting for the bottom. You have other people that are DCAing. They're going, geez, is this ever going to end? Where's the bottom, right? Everybody wants to know where the bottom is. But as I mentioned earlier, what's really interesting is when you start looking at like the historic Bitcoin chart and you look at when it's really taken off, and you can just see the crazy FOMO that happens. And I see big time FOMO around the corner. It will happen. Everything will take off again, okay? But it takes time for that to happen. You know, this whole market has just been crazy with this crazy inflation, you know, this war, all this ridiculous stuff. You know, COVID, the pandemic, you know, it's just weighed on this whole year. The whole year has been just bad for investing. As I mentioned earlier, oddly enough, where it's been pretty good is real estate. So, you know, a little bit of a flip side of that coin, you know, if you're an investor, well, you know, you may want to consider having some real estate also on top of whatever you're doing in crypto or the stock market or anything else. But when you're looking at, you know, stocks, the cryptocurrency market, Bitcoin, Jasmy, it's all down. If you look at the Jasmy chart, it's like straight down. Why is it straight down? I think, you know, this might be a bit of a topic of contention. And I think that's why Hara has addressed it 2 or 3 times recently. I know he addressed it in one of the AMAs. I think he's maybe made a statement or two about it, about the market maker moving the market faster than what they intended for a release schedule. You know, that plays into this also. So we had a downward market and we had a market maker providing liquidity, right? So it's kind of a, both of those things hit this coin, and that's why it dropped like it did. But where we are finally at now is, you know, over 93% of this supply is in circulation. So the next steps, the way I see it, we have to continue to execute the product. That's the most important part. I think the next big rock is going to be that Hokkaido ballpark with the entry-exit system. I think they proved the use case with Sagan Tosu and the fund token. So we got to continue to do those things. Secure PC, all the big businesses are going to want in on that. We have to prove that use case. We have to continue to align with the government of Japan. Think about the tax laws in Japan, right? So I've said all along that Japan is not a favorable business climate for a blockchain company. That's true. They've been there, Jasmy has been there over 6 years, almost 7. So when those tax laws change, we could finally have Japanese buying Jasmy coin and not being taxed on unrealized gains. And so that could open up this whole market for blockchain, especially in the country of Japan. You know, if they can't do it in Japan, how are they going to do it somewhere else, right? Especially when the J in Jasmy stands for Japan. So it has to work in Japan first. And I think that's absolutely critical. And so again, when you look at the way that the tide's turning here, you can see that changing. And I want to say in last week's video before, we had an update that said it could possibly change in April, those laws changing. So that changes everything. That's also where the various businesses could start holding and locking the coin. I would love, as I've said a couple times this video, to see that percentage. We really as a community need to know the percentage, where we're at in terms of businesses locking up the coin. If they could provide that number somewhere, that would really tell us how far along we are in terms of this. Now, where we are right now, my hunch, I think we're very, very early, and a lot of it, part of it is the project itself, right? We still just have to advance and develop the technology. But the other half of this are those tax laws in Japan. So as we continue to develop the tech, we change the tax laws, everything kind of comes into alignment. The businesses start locking up the coin. As they lock up the coin, that's taken out of supply, then the value goes up. We haven't had that happen yet, which is why the value kind of keeps on dropping as time has gone on, and it's just, you know, followed the overall market sentiment, Bitcoin pairs, etc. Right? So that is going to be absolutely critical. But I do see that turning around. Now, you know, it's been said, and I think Jasmy US highlights this pretty well on Twitter. You know, you look at what Jasmy has done throughout this whole bear market. They've been continuing to develop, build the technology, build the platform, do the AMAs. They've done everything that they possibly could. They're not insolvent. You know, the companies that have gone bankrupt in this whole thing are centralized exchanges or very central points of failure. Jasmy really hasn't run into any of those particular issues for any reason because it's just a totally different thing. As I mentioned earlier, you also see now that there is a board for Jasmy. So there wasn't always a board. But now when you go to the website, you can see there that Hagawara is the board director. This is, you know, a startup with a board. I mean, it's being ran just like Sony when you look at it and the way that it's set up and the different, you know, use cases and areas and angles they're going for, et cetera, et cetera. So the bottom line here, I think there's still a ton of promise in the project itself. I think if you look at the value of data, smart money would be on the value of data increasing as time goes on. And overall, I think the headwinds of 2022 are slowly dying down, but it's nothing that happens overnight, which is why this entire year has just been one big downer for an investor. But the highlight in all of that is the year is just about over. So I'll leave it with that I'm looking forward towards the future. I think we got some big things coming the second half of 2023. I've said all along, I'm hoping for a rebound like summer of 2023. I think Jasmy could have some, you know, big announcements and things, especially the first quarter, March, April of 2023. So we'll see what comes with that. But overall, just wanted to wrap everything up now. Give a big thanks to everybody out there, all my followers, supporters, everybody who supports the channel, the patrons, everybody out there. Big thanks to all of you, all of my friends from all around the world. Shout out to you guys for keeping it real and leaving your comments. I do read every single one of them, so if you leave me a comment, I'll definitely be reading it. But just wanted to put a big shout out and a big thanks to everybody. I hope you all had a great holiday. So lastly, as always in all my various videos, don't forget that I'm also on Twitter at KIR Finance. You can find me there. You can check out the Patreon channel. You can support us there. That's a big help. And then lastly, very lastly, for a friendly reminder and as a cap to this year's 2022 video, this is Jesse with Keeping It Real Finance, channel that always has your back, tells it like it is, and I will see you next year. Later.